switched in with?
18.
We are. We're good to go.
Good.
Okay. Ready to call roll. Good morning, everyone. Chair Lieber,
Here.
Vice Chair Gaines,
Here.
Member Vasquez,
Present.
Member Schaefer,
Present.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Present.
Thank you. Quorum is present, and the board meeting is called to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag, led by Mr. Gaines.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go now to any brief opening remarks that members have. Mr. Vasquez.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple here that let me just try to go through them quickly here. One, I know we just passed Mother's Day, so I wanted to take the opportunity to salute and all the mothers that have worked so hard, not only throughout our history, but even here in California. And I know many of us, some of us still have our parents around. I unfortunately lost mine years back, but I know in talking to many of the folks, especially the electeds, and those that are blessed to still have their moms around, how valuable that is, just that support network, especially as we have kids, our grandkids, But, so I wanted to just mention that and a shout out to all those mothers out there for their work. People forget the dual role most of them play. A lot of them are professionals and still have to carry out the role as a mother at home. And us fathers, sometimes we get a break on that one, but we need to do more to support them. The other one issue is the mental health awareness. I know this is mental health awareness, and I'm reminded just last week, I believe, we had this young man, a golfer, 30 years old, PGA, took his life, and he was having issues mentally, it turns out now. And we forget whether you're a professional or even just a worker, the stress these people are going through on a day-to-day basis. And in many cases, people try to ignore it and think they can work it through, don't get any counseling, and as a result of it, end up in a very dire situation, and in many cases take their lives. So I just want to put a shout out, and now since we're talking about national mental health, there is a hotline at 1-866-903-3787 that'll connect you with a professional, hopefully to provide some assistance. We need to take advantage of that and get that out to folks. And then the last thing I want to just mention is the recognition of the Asian American, Native, Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander month. This also is, Heritage Month, as we celebrate the many contributions of the Asian Pacific Islanders. A couple of people that come to mind is our past U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth, and the first Thai American woman elected to Congress, and David Chang, founder of the, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, it looks like Monofuku restaurant. Mm-hmm. He has a podcast and a very television personality and has done very well for himself and has actually provided many, many jobs for folks, primarily mostly in California. Just wanted to give a shout out to them. And the last thing also I forgot to mention is the Jewish American Heritage Month as well this month. And an annual recognition, celebration of the American Jews' many achievements and contributions during more than 350-year history of the Jewish Americans in the United States. And then, of course, we just went through Memorial Day. Many of us, I was just talking to some of my colleagues, we all had celebrations in our respective districts. And as we talk about, I know later in our agenda, about our veterans and the exemptions, I think we need to do as much as we can to support these folks. We forget how many lives have been taken with all these wars over the years. And I'm reminded of many of us in our families, I know I lost a young nephew a few years back during the Iraq War. He was just a young buck. He was 28 years old. And he lost one of these, as he was just traveling, hit a mine trap and blew up the whole vehicle. And he left a young child at the time, now a teen. And we forget, the sacrifices these folks make on our behalf to keep our states and our freedom that we have, especially here in the U.S. And with that, I'll turn it back over to our chair.
Thank you. Mr. Gaines.
Yeah, thank you. I want to also recognize those who served our nation and lost their lives or were seriously injured or just served. I had an opportunity to attend Memorial Day service yesterday in Placer County, and I'm just trying to, it's important that we pass that on to the next generation. So I took my granddaughter, and she's 6 years old, and tried to tell her, why do we have Memorial Day, and what is the importance of that, and that we live in such a great nation, flawed always, right? But at the same time, I think always reaching for the right ideals in life, and we're so lucky and so fortunate to be Americans. So that was a great moment, and I'm hoping as my grandchildren grow up, they can ride shotgun with me in some of these events. I also wanted to also recognize mental health awareness, and I want to thank Member Vasquez for bringing up all these really poignant issues this month. But I had a roommate in college that I've been trying to contact him for many years, and asked a friend of mine recently, do you know where Greg is? And we come to find out that he committed suicide, we think, because people, it's hard to talk about things like that, but he went on a hike and was missing, and that was all that was told. And then contributions were given to suicide prevention. So I'm surmising that, but he was a great guy. He was so outgoing and hardworking, and I couldn't connect the dots. I'd just been struggling with it, but his mom committed suicide when he was in high school. And so I'm wondering if maybe there was a challenge there in terms of fighting depression, and maybe that's why he was so outgoing and trying to live his life differently. But my thoughts and prayers go to him and his family. And I also wanted to recognize C.C. Yin and all the work he's done for the Asian Pacific Islanders here in the state of California. He's just been a stalwart, a real leader in that effort, giving that due recognition for all the wonderful contributions that have been made by the community. And then, of course, I wanted to make sure that I recognize my wife on Mother's Day and the great job she's doing as a grandmother and a mother. And she had the honor of serving in the State Assembly, too, with me, which were some special years. And then also a recognition of Jewish Americans and the great contributions they've made to this nation and the struggles that they are living with now. And so we just we want to live free as Americans, and there's a lot of turmoil around the world, and anything that we can do to provide peace, I think, is really critical in that area of the Middle East. And I'm hoping there's a solution for the Palestinians in the near future. And I think that's it. I hope I didn't speak too long, but thank you.
No, thank you. You touched on a lot of important points, both you and Mr. Vasquez. And we'll go to Mr. Emron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to all my colleagues here, and good morning to members of the public and those in the audience. It's the end of May and the beginning of June, and it's one of my favorite times of year, because that includes graduation. For all the young people, we talk about the next generation, whether you're graduating from elementary school or middle school, high school, college, or even graduate school. I just want to give a huge, huge shout out to all those young people who have accomplished an amazing, amazing task, some milestone to further educate yourself, to empower yourself, to go out there and get a good job, hopefully at the Board of Equalization. And I just want to give a huge shout out because in my own life and in my own path in this journey, I used education as a tool in my own toolbox to mobilize myself and afford myself the position I am today. And then also the work that this board is doing, I do want to give that recognition. The property tax assessments we're doing funds these schools, those new textbooks, those new facilities. I come from a town called Antioch, California, and it's about 120 years old. And for the first time in ever, this school got afforded a brand new cafeteria. And because of the work that this Board of Equalization do, I thought it was really, really amazing to go back onto campus and see the kids finally eating inside and enjoying themselves. And just those little things, I believe, gives you a better shot to succeed in life. So once again, just want to thank every single person here at the Board of Equalization and just recognize all those young people that have graduated and are going to walk the stage, whether you already have or in the next couple of weeks. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Schaefer, did you have opening comments?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Today, I always mention a birthday, and today is one of the most respected people in our lifetime, comedian Bob Hope. He would be 101 today if he were, or 121 if he were still here. He passed away at 100 years old in 2003. He was actually born in England, and he said when he realized he never was going to become king, he decided to move to the United States. I also want to mention, I consider that all of us are constitutional officers, and we're sort of princes of the government, and we have general jurisdiction to stick our nose in really anything that's going on that protects the taxpayers, because that's our prime mission. I'm a little concerned that the California Highway Patrol is being called off their duty to deal with student unrest at the campuses. I think the campuses should call on their campus police first. They should call on their local police like LAPD. They should call on their sheriffs like LA County Sheriffs, maybe some of the neighboring cities, but the first mission of our CHP is to catch drunk drivers and save lives on the freeways. And I am making my views known that I'd like them to be the last person taken off their work to help the campuses. I think there's higher priorities to the campuses, and we've got to respect the mission of the Highway Patrol. I also want to mention that I live in a common residence where we have 100 people having dinner. And when we sat down for dinner on Memorial Day, we had a fantastic dinner at noon. But the most fantastic part of the dinner was an empty table with a little red rose on it and a little flag and a little sign expressing our respect for the missing soldiers that aren't with us today. I thought that was very nice, and I would hope that all of us, when we have a chance to do something nice like that in memory of our veterans, that we do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. And that is a very nice thought, to be able to have a tangible representation of that sentiment. And I'm going to definitely carry that forward from here. So thank you very much. And thank you to all my colleagues for their very sensitive comments. Although we have jurisdiction in a certain area of policy that may not be top of mind for most folks, although it is kind of top of mind for everyone in California. I think that we do it with a real heart for the needs of people. So thank you so much for that. And Mr. Ketty, if you would make our informational announcement.
Thank you. Our first order of business today is our informational announcement. This meeting is live streamed to the public and posted on the BoE YouTube channel. Therefore, we ask that all speakers please state your name first before you begin speaking for the record. We ask that you speak clearly and slowly into the microphone. I would like to remind the audience to silence their cell phones and any other wireless devices. Note that public comment is taken on each agenda item. The public will be invited to comment on matters before the board. If there are any members of the public wishing to speak before the Board of Equalization, we ask that you complete and submit to the Sergeant of Arms a public comment appearance sheet located at the entrance of the auditorium. If you wish to speak before the board by telephone, please dial the phone number and access code provided on our public agenda notice, and follow the instructions of the AT&T moderator. We recommend dialing into the meeting on the teleconference line before the beginning of your agenda item you wish to comment on. We recommend this because the audio broadcast on our website experiences a 1 to 3 minute delay between the live stream and the live event. When giving public comments, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. This concludes the informational announcement. Thank you.
Thank you. Members will go on now to item 1, public comments on matters that are not on the agenda. Persons who wish to address the Board of Equalization regarding items not on the agenda may do so under this item. Please note that the board cannot act on items that are not on our agenda for today. However, the board can schedule issues raised by the public for consideration at future meetings. We do not have any written comments, and I believe that we haven't accepted any speaker cards from those who are here today. So we'll go to our AT&T moderator. And AT&T moderator, if you would please let us know if there's anyone who would like to make a comment on item 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to comment on item 1, please press 1 followed by the 0. You'll hear a tone indicating you've been placed in queue. Take yourself out of that queue by simply pressing the 1-0 command. Again, for questions or comments, please press 1 followed by 0 at this time. Madam Chair, nobody is queuing up.
Thank you. Hearing no comments, we'll move on to our next item, item 2, the consent agenda. This is adoption of the April 16, 2024 board meeting minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Schaefer and seconded by Mr. Gaines. And we do not have written comments nor any speaker cards. So we'll go to our AT&T moderator. Moderator, would you please let us know if there's anyone who would like to make a public comment regarding the consent agenda?
If you would like to comment on the consent agenda, please press 1 followed by 0. 1 followed by 0 at this time. Madam Chair, nobody is queuing up.
Thank you. And members, is there any discussion on minutes? Seeing none. Member Schaefer has moved approval, and Vice Chair Gaines has seconded that motion. So, Mr. Ketty, if you would please call the roll.
Yes. Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines,
Aye?
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Thank you, members. The motion passes unanimously, and we'll go on to item 3, the 4R Act equalization ratio. And this item is being presented by Mr. Angelo.
Good morning, Chair Lieber, honorable members of the board. I'm Ted Angelo, Chief of the Legislative Research and Statistics Division. When we are not focusing on legislative activity, some of the work of my team and difficult work is tracking roll for all the properties in the state and the equalization ratios. And so this 4R report that I bring before you today stands for the Railroad Revitalization and Regulatory Reform Act, which was enacted by Congress in 1976. Revenue and Taxation Code, Section 1817 in California, requires the board to annually conduct a study to determine the statewide and county-by-county ratio of assessed value to fair market value of commercial and industrial real property. So, rail transportation property is to be assessed at the same percentage of market value as all other commercial industrial property. So the analysis has been completed by my staff, and this year's study using the 2022-23 property roll, and it yielded an estimated statewide ratio of 52.48%. This is a decrease of 1.83 percentage points from last year's ratio, which was 54.31%. So staff recommends that the board assess rail transportation property at 52.48% of the market value for the 2024-2025 roll. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have, and I ask for your adoption of this year's ratio. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you, Mr. Angelo, for your presentation and sharing, especially on this, as we met our deadline on this issue. But just out of curiosity, I was wondering, do we know or did we ever evaluate the ratio calculation and if it represents a true market value?
A true market value. That I would have to look.
Okay.
I would have to look and get back to you, unless there's somebody here that wants to come up and speak about, because I'm a little confused about the
Yes.
question. In
Oh, I'm
terms
sorry.
Of the true of what that represents, of what true market value actually.
Well, I guess as it applies to, if is it in line with the federal statute, that's what I guess I was kind of referring to. And I don't know if we have that information or if we could obtain it.
Well, if I may assist there.
Yes.
Thank you for that question. My name's David Young. I'm the Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. What this ratio represents is the actual, what the assessment is for any commercial or industrial property compared to its fair market value. Because we, in California, our property tax system is under a Prop 13 structure. The assessment typically is lower than what the fair market value is. So what we do is with the help of the assessors give us recent sales of commercial industrial property. They take a look at what it's sold for and what it was assessed at. And that's the ratio we're coming in with. So the 52 point some odd percent is, on average, if something is worth $100, it is assessed at about $52. And that's the ratio we're recommending to the board for adoption. With that 4R Act, in recognition of how we do things in California, it would be, we have to comply to federal law that says, hey, look, if it's worth $100 on a federal, the regulated railroad property, if it's worth $100, you can't assess it for $100. It has to be the same as everything else in California. And we figured that ratio was around 52%. So $100 in railroad-owned property should be assessed at $52, and that's the ratio that we're putting before you, and that's the purpose behind it.
So I guess we're kind of unique because of Prop 13, it sounds like.
Yes, so.
When we're looking at a federal statute. for
Yeah, we're
example.
looking at a federal statute, specifically how it applies to California.
All right.
We work under Prop 13, so, and there is a little bit of a difference. The 4R Act actually is much broader than that. If you look at across the U.S., it also, not only does it affect how we work under Prop 13, they have to assess it in other states at the same assessment ratios. They have to assess it with the same millage rate and other components of value. So it's a broad federal law. We look at it and see how it applies to California, and that's how we come up with the 4R Act ratio for our specific type of assessments.
Appreciate it.
Of
Thanks.
course.
Okay, any other questions, Mr. Schaefer?
Yes, is there any, there's no conflict between Prop 13 and what we're looking at today? They're entitled to the advantages of Prop 13 as a commercial property owner in California. I guess that puts them at an advantage over how they stand in all the other states. But that's good, I guess.
You're correct. Mhm. Yes.
Okay. Well, the suggested motion is to assess the rail transportation property at 52.48% of market value for the 2024-2025 roll. Would anyone like to make a motion on this? Moved by Mr. Vasquez. And is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Emron. Now, we have no written comments and haven't received comment cards from the auditorium. So we'll go out to our AT&T moderator. And moderator, if you would please let us know if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding item 3.
If you would like to make public comment on item 3, please press 1 followed by 0. AT&T operator will quickly gather your name and place you back into the queue. 1 followed by 0 if you'd like to make a comment at this time. Madam Chair, nobody is queuing up.
Thank you, moderator. Members, is there any further discussion before Mr. Angelo closes on this one? Seeing none, Mr. Angelo, did you want to close it up for us?
No, I just appreciate your consideration, and you can see why I like to focus on legislation rather than but the attachment to the pan shows in detail what we're doing here today for the public, for those that may be listening in, and it has the ratios for every county listed and how the aggregated totals come together. But they were very good questions today, and I'm glad Dave was here to help assist with the answers.
Yes, thank you. Thank you both for that. And members, Member Vasquez has moved to assess rail transportation property at 52.48% of market value for the 2024-2025 roll. And Mr. Emron has seconded that. And if, Ms. Cicchetti, if you would please call the roll.
Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye?
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, members. The motion passes unanimously. And we will go ahead and go on now to item 4, which is the invitation to annual meeting of the board and county assessors. And this is presented by Mr. Young.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Lieber and honorable members of the board. I took the liberty of just staying up here. I knew I was up next. So for the record again, my name is David Young. I'm the Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. So before you today, I bring up for your consideration and action the invitation to the county assessors. Government Code Section 15607 requires the board and the assessors to meet annually to discuss pertinent assessment issues for California. So the proposed date for this year's meeting will be September 25th of this year at 10 a.m. in the morning, and it is the second day of our two-day meeting in September. It will be a Wednesday, and the proposed site will be our new boardroom meeting facility. It's located, it's known as the May Lee Complex Auditorium. So the attached to that item is the actual invitation with your action and approval. That will be sent out as an LTA, letter to assessor, inviting assessors to meet with the board. So with that, I ask for your consideration and action on that, and board and staff recommends the adoption of that date. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Any questions about this one, Mr. Vasquez?
Just a quick one. It looks like it's actually going to take place right after the northern conference that the assessors are doing up here in August that they usually do, the annual one, I believe it's in Tahoe again, right?
Yes, that is correct. The annual, that is the Northern California. It will be held at the Palisades in August.
So it looks like it gives us a good opportunity to kind of refine
Yeah.
our list, right,
Yeah.
of
yeah.
topics for that annual meeting.
Yes, yes.
Sounds good.
Great. Mr. Gaines, did you have a question?
Well, I'm wondering if Member Schaefer might want to speak to Mei Lee. the
Yes,
naming of the building.
I wanted to mention that we honored Mei Lee right here in this room during her final year. She came over to meet us. I'd met her as a brand-new member of the board, and I asked this lovely lady, have you met our governor? And she said, no, I haven't met Mr. Newsom. I just met Jerry Brown. So I cured that. Gary and I made an appointment with Governor Newsom, and we went over there and had a delightful meeting, and Governor Newsom talked to her for 5 or 10 minutes, and it was really one of the highlights of her life, and I'm so proud to have been part of that, and that she came over here and spent some
time with each of us, which is nice. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else on this item? Okay. Mr. Emron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to also thank you, Mr. Young, the Executive Director, for getting this invitation out early summer now and then into the fall, having the county assessors join here in Sacramento. I think it's one of my favorite days of the year, being part of this board, to kind of see that very historic partnership that we have with the county assessors, and the attendance has always been good. I know it's over 35, 40 assessors from all over California. It's nice to see Tahoma County. It's nice to see all the way San Diego and Los Angeles. They always make their way too, and I think we can really make it a really special day. So I'm glad the invitations are going to be sent out now, and we can start the planning process over the summer to really make it a fulfilling day for the assessors. I just want to thank you again for your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. And members, is there a motion to approve the invitation? Mr. Emron, did you wish to make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you. And seconded by Vice Chair Gaines. And we do not have written comments nor any speaker cards from the auditorium. So we'll go to the AT&T moderator. Moderator, is there anyone who would like to make comments on item 4 on the agenda?
Ladies and gentlemen on the phone lines, if you would like to comment, please press 1 followed by 0. 1 followed by 0. And Madam Chair, nobody is queuing up.
Thank you. So members, we have a motion from Mr. Emron and a second from Vice Chair Gaines to approve the invitation to the county assessors to meet with the board on September 25th, 2024. And Mr. Keddy, if you would please call the roll.
Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines,
Aye?
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye?
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, members. Motion passes unanimously, and thank you to Mr. Young and to all the staff that put in so much work to make our meetings with the assessors very valuable for us and for them. We appreciate that, so thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Young, we do get a chance to host lunch, do we, for them?
That will be that will be up to you to decide, sir.
That will be revealed to us. So we'll go on now to property tax forms, and this item is presented by Ms. Keach.
Good morning, Chair Lieber and honorable board members. I'm Lauren Keach, Chief of the County Assessed Properties Division. With me today is Glenna Schultz, Principal Property Appraiser of the Assessment Services and Training and Certification Units. Annually, we review and update BOE prescribed forms to address issues, law changes, or standard updates that are required. We have before you for your consideration and action to adopt the revisions of the forms for this year. Ms. Schultz will provide a summary of the process and the updates that have been made and will answer any questions you may have. And if you are ready, I will turn it over to Ms. Schultz to give her presentation.
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Chair Lieber and honorable board members. I'm Glenda Schultz, Principal Property Appraiser in the County Assessed Properties Division. Government Code Section 15606 requires that the board prescribe and enforce the use of all forms for the assessment of property for taxation. Pursuant to that mandate, BOE staff worked with the California Assessors Association's Form Subcommittee on the revision of forms. Attached to this month's agenda is a memo containing 2 new forms and proposed revisions to 16 property tax forms that are used by county assessors' offices. These 18 property tax forms are being presented to the board for approval and adoption.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the forms?
Yeah, if I could.
Please, Mr. Gaines.
Yes, I just want to make sure that whenever we're making any revision of the forms, that we're getting input from the constituents that use them, and that we're doing everything we can to simplify that process. And I know that we've been doing that, especially in the welfare exemption arena. But I'm wondering if maybe you could just speak to that in general, in terms of when we make revisions, are we also thinking about ease of use for our constituents?
Should a constituent suggest or complain about a form, we definitely would take that into consideration for revision in the upcoming year. The revisions that are being presented were suggested by both board staff as well as county assessors staff.
Good, okay.
So they would take that into consideration as well.
Yeah,
And
that's good. So you're getting input from
ease-
the assessors too?
Yeah, ease
Yeah,
for
okay.
constituents is definitely something
Okay,
that is of consideration.
excellent. Thank you. Because I'm looking at the forms and I can't make hide nor hair of it. They're very technical, right? So I just want to make sure that, whoever those interested parties are, that they understand it, and we're doing what we can on our end to simplify it. Or make it clear. Maybe it's not simple, maybe clear. Clarity is a better word.
We try and make them as simple as possible, but sometimes the laws are very complicated.
Sure, yeah, you got to work within the bounds.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Other questions, Mr. Vasquez?
Just a quick follow-up. Along those lines, what are we doing to notify, these folks about these changes? The taxpayers specifically, I'm thinking, on these new forms.
These are all forms that are used by assessors, and taxpayers would go to the assessor's website, and questions, they would go to the assessors about their particular property.
And they just pull them down off the website?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, great. Any other questions? If not, the suggested motion is to approve and adopt the 2 sets of tax forms that are attached. And is there a motion, Mr.
So moved,
Vasquez?
yeah.
And seconded by Vice Chair. We do not have any written comments, nor anyone in the auditorium who wish to make a public comment for this agenda item. So we'll go to our AT&T moderator. Moderator, if you would please let us know if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment on item 5.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, ladies and gentlemen on the phone, to comment on item 5, please press 1, then 0 at this time. And Madam Chair, we have no callers responding in queue.
Thank you. So we'll bring it back. Just as far as discussion, I'd like to say thank you to staff for all the work on the forums. to make them as accessible as possible. And I also wanted to give a shout out to the Assessors Association Subcommittee on Forms. It's not terribly exciting work that the Subcommittee on Forms does. Maybe it is exciting, I don't know. But it is very, very valuable. And so we thank the subcommittee members for serving, and also our staff working on this project for these updates. It's very valuable work. And so we have a motion from Mr. Vasquez, seconded by the Vice Chair, Mr. Gaines. Oh, other comments? Yes, please.
Sorry.
Mr. Gaines and Mr. Vasquez.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to Prop 19, because I was just looking over the form here for claim for reassessment exclusion for transfer between grandparent and grandchild occurring on or after February 16th, 2021. So as a result of the passage of Prop 19, we've been empowered through the initiative process to implement. And so this is an example of the work that the BoE has been doing without hiring additional staff. So, I just want to applaud, you and all the staff that have taken on, really everybody's taken on that additional responsibility, and then conferring with our county assessors in terms of making sure that it's clear from their standpoint, and then also for our constituents that would have to fill that form out. But I just wanted to cite that example because it speaks to additional responsibilities taken on by the BoE just a couple of years ago. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, I want to ditto that and just kind of add to it. And I think you kind of mentioned it, but I just want to make sure. So if the taxpayer, I guess, has questions about this, is there somebody they contact in the BoE office, or are we recommending that they contact their assessor on these changes?
If they have questions about the law, they can certainly contact the board, and they would be directed to the appropriate unit who could answer their questions. If they have questions about their particular property, then we direct them to the county assessor who has access to the building records and the property records and can specifically answer their question regarding their particular property.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Great. Mr. Emron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank the BoE team for revising these, and just in terms of the process. So when somebody submits it, how does that process work to get these forms through the BoE and approved?
Okay, the suggestions to change forms can either come from BoE staff, if sometimes in conversations with taxpayers, they'll come up with something, a different perspective that perhaps we're not aware of, and then we'll look at the form and say, yeah, that can be improved, and then we kind of put it in the queue, because this, we meet with the assessor subcommittee twice a year, and at the same time, the subcommittee is also collecting comments from the county assessor's offices. And then then the committee reviews all the suggestions at the same time, and then we come up with the final list of forms.
Understood. Thank you.
Great. A follow-up question from Mr. Gaines. You're getting a lot of public
Yeah, I
comment here.
apologize, but I'm just trying to understand this. So I'm looking, this is the agricultural property statement for 2025, but there's a couple of documents in here that say this document is not subject to public inspection. So what's that mean?
That means it's a confidential document, so, I cannot go into the assessor's office and ask to see your
Yes, okay.
agricultural property statement.
Okay, good, wonderful. Yeah, we want privacy in that regard, so, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for your work on this. And it's a great example of our partnerships with the Assessors Association, for sure. And they really I think, identify a lot of the stumbling blocks for our constituents and are right there to suggest ways to make it better. So we've got a motion from Mr. Vasquez and a second from Vice Chair Gaines, and we're ready to have Mr. Getty call the roll.
Okay. Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Thank you, members. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you to staff. And we'll go on now to item 6, the guidelines for appraiser certification and training, which is also presented by Ms. Keach and Ms. Glenna Schultz.
Yes,
you.
thank you. Good morning again, Chair Lieber and honorable board members. For the record, again, I'm Lauren Keach, Chief of the County Assessed Properties Division. And with me again to present this next item is Glenna Schultz, Principal Property Appraiser of the Assessment Services and Training and Certification Units. We bring before you today the board's consideration and adoption of the updated guidelines for appraiser certification and training. Ms. Schultz will give a brief description of the process and the revisions that have been made and will be able to answer any questions you may have. If you are ready, I will turn it over to Ms. Schultz to give her presentation.
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Lieber and honorable board members. Again, I'm Glenna Schultz, Principal Property Appraiser in the County Assessed Properties Division. Pursuant to Government Code Section 15606.7 and Revenue and Taxation Code Sections 670, 671, and 675, the BoE provides training to, or approves training for assessors and their staffs. These guidelines ensure that county assessors and their staffs have sufficient information to assist them in obtaining and maintaining appraiser and assessment analyst certifications. BoE staff worked with the California Assessors Association on the revision of these guidelines, and the CAA reviewed the revised version. Attached to this month's agenda is a memo outlining the major changes. These updated guidelines are being presented to the board for approval and adoption.
Thank you so much. Are there questions on this, Mr. Vasquez?
First of all, thank you once again for this property tax staff, and I know the county assessors and all the work you've been doing with this. For the outstanding work that was put into these guidelines, it's clear that everyone involved made significant efforts to address some of the challenges that were before the workforce planning group these past few years. And the guidelines added assessment analysis are excellent. So I just want to give kudos to you folks. But I have 3 simple clarification questions. The first one is, it looks like you addressed the educational qualifications issue by allowing an applicant to submit a description of job duties document on page 10. Is that allowed for advanced appraisers and auditor appraisers also?
Yes. I had to think that through.
All right. And then the second one is, I saw some information about the cross-training from appraiser to auditor. Is this an area that may be more fully developed in the future, as I looked at it?
I believe we are looking into that as well, because I know the CAA has concerns in that
Right.
area as well.
Appreciate it. And then my third one is in the section on valuation activities by non-certified staff. Seems like something like newly added and very helpful, as it clarifies tasks that can perform without engaging in any value judgment. Is this new or just fully developed that we had previously had before?
We're just elaborating upon what we've already had.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none. We do not have written comments or any speaker cards for the auditorium, so we'll go to our AT&T moderator. Moderator, would you please let us know if there's anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment on item 6.
To comment on item 6, for those on the phone, press 1, then 0, please, on your phone's keypad. Once again, that's 1, 0 for comments on item 6. Madam Chair, no callers are queued up.
Thank you. Well, we'll bring it back to the board, and I would just like to express my thanks for the detailed pathways and work on this. I think it's really going to move us forward in terms of staffing. And so I very much appreciate everything that's gone into this. Any other comments? And if not, I don't think that we took a motion on this yet. So the suggested motion is to approve the guidelines for appraiser and assessment analyst certification and training. Mr. Vasquez
So moved.
moves, and seconded by Vice Chair Gaines. And do I need to repeat the motion, or you've got it?
Nope, we got it. Thank
Okay,
you. Mhm.
fantastic.
Yeah,
And
very good.
Mr. Ketty, if you would please call the roll.
Perfect, thank you. Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines. Member Vasquez.
Aye.
Member Schaefer.
Aye?
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously, and again, thank you to staff and the Assessors Association for working on this. We're really tapping into them quite a bit, so thank you. We'll go on now to our next item. Item 7 is our Executive Director's Report. And this is presented by Ms. Stowers.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Lieber, honorable members. I am Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. Members, for today's report, I would like to make an announcement on our new location for our future board meetings, provide an update of legislation of interest to the board, provide highlights of the 2024-2025 Governor's May revised budget as it pertains to BoE, and provide an update on my report on an internal assessment of the agency. First, let's talk about our new meeting location. This has been very anticipated. It's been a long search, but as you know, June 25th, 26th will be our last meeting date here at 450 N Street. CDTFA is in the process of vacating the building and relocating to the newly constructed May Lee State Office Complex at 651 Bannon Street in Sacramento. The final closing of this location is expected by June 30th, 2024. The building will be closed for major rehabilitation with no access to this auditorium. After searching extensively for a new BoE meeting site, the May Lee State Office Complex was identified as the best choice. As such, beginning with July 23rd, 24th BoE meeting, we'll be meeting at that location, the May Lee State Office Complex. The complex is a state-of-the-art facility with an auditorium capacity of 300 participants, and it has on-site structured above-grade parking that includes 90 electric vehicle charging stations and capacity for more. Arrangements have been made for members to tour the complex, and the tentative date is set for late June. I will be reaching out to your offices to confirm your availability and scheduling the tours.
I think we might have a question.
Yeah, if I could you repeat the address?
Sure.
Is it-
651 Bannon Street, Bannon Street,
Great, thank you.
Sacramento, Cross Street, Richards Boulevard.
Yeah, right, thank you.
That's the same as the May Lee State Office Complex.
It's the same complex, yes. Dave kind of stole my thunder when he talked about it, but
Is our auditorium smaller or bigger? I seem to think we have a little more space than we need here.
it is bigger, and that was a concern because, we thought we would need so much space. We looked at other sites, even within that building complex, where they're going to have meetings, but it was not appropriately set for a board meeting, so we said no to that. The way that auditorium is set up, with the lighting, we will stage it so that even if we only have 50 people here, hopefully we'll have more, but it won't be that bad.
Well, I was hoping we'd have standing room only sometime.
Well, that's the goal. That's, going off script, but there's going to be 5 state agencies there. And I know I already told the team that we're going to invite them to our meeting. We got the Department of Real Estate there, Housing and Community Development there, several other large agencies. So we're going to do our best, and it's open to the public. So I'm hoping to really market our meetings now and get more participation.
Clarification. Could you just expand a little bit in terms of what's happening on Richards Boulevard and there's some revitalization going on?
Richards Boulevard is being revitalized right now, and they're building this complex, which is almost done. They're also building, I want to say affordable housing, not low-income housing, but affordable housing. There's limited restaurants right now, but the goal is for them to come back into that area. There are some people who are unsheltered, and they are really offering them shelter in the surrounding areas, not right where we're going to be for our meetings, but there is housing being made available for them. So it's an up-and-coming neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you think of what's happening in the rail yards, right, and potential professional soccer, I mean, we already have the Republic, but we're talking about getting to the next level up. A lot of opportunity there in the future in terms of housing and economic development.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Good.
And Mr. Emron, did you have a question as well?
Yes, just a point of clarification. This is the permanent home for the BoE now, or is this this auditorium here gonna be refurbished and we're gonna move back in at some point in this term?
Nothing's permanent. When this place is refurbished, I guess we can ask to move back in. This is a DGS building. So it's up to DGS, and if they're going to put another tenant in here, or they're going to be in here, we would have to get their permission. The Maley complex we have reserved for 2024, and let's see how it works. If we're not happy,
Right.
then we will go looking for other
Sure.
places. But again, it was very slim pickings. We really tried to find something that was on the Capitol Mall corridor is what our goal was, and we just couldn't. Another thought was to build something out at our headquarters,
Yeah.
which
Good.
would take you further away from the Capitol, but it would be our site.
Yes.
Vice Chair, did you have a
Yeah, so
question?
if we looked at Opus, is that the right name? But anyway, where your house now is on the other side of the river, so this is closer to the city center. The picture that you sent us, I thought that looked like actually a very nice meeting room. I mean, it's all brand new, has
yeah.
plenty of seating capacity. One question I did have is that they had it set up for like a panel discussion with some nice chairs and things like that. Are we going to be able to set it up in such a way that it looks more like a dais
Yes,
in terms of a table?
There are portable daises, so
Okay.
it's designed to sit 10, and it's 5 of you guys, so you have more than enough space.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, and before we go to Mr. Schaefer, I just wanted to say that the photo that we got sent that looked more like a panel discussion, it was a little bit subtle in the photo, but if you look right behind it, there's a nice wooden dais.
Oh, okay.
That's very beautiful, and so it lends itself to the different kinds of of uses. And I think although we're habituated to this place, we'll probably get there and it'll be so beautiful and useful that they're going to have a hard time getting us out of there. So, Mr. Schaefer.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I'm sure Mr. Gaines would not object that Mr. Vasquez and I would like to have at least one meeting a year in either Los Angeles or San Diego, so we could expose ourselves to the media there and some of the political activists who like to come see us easily. And San Diego and Los Angeles are underrepresented, and I mean, they're representative quality, but they're underattended. And if we could sort of do that once a year, I would appreciate it, and I'm sure Tony would too.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. And I've seen some little movements from our legal counsel, Mr. Norm Scott, and I think the subtext of that is wanting us to get back on to the executive director making her report so that we don't get too far astray.
Right. I actually want to make a correction as well regarding this location here. We don't have any information confirming that this building will actually remain. Let's see now. So we talked about the new location, Bannon Street, is named after Mei Lee. In my notes, I wanted to make it grand and that Member Schaefer and his board invited Ms. Lee to us and had a nice presentation with her. So that was very nice when we honored her. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2023 at the age of 102. She was just about to have her 103rd birthday. Finally, as far as this location, members, information about our changing our meeting location will be placed on our website under board meetings to keep our stakeholders informed. Additionally, we'll be issuing a flyer announcing the new meeting location, and of course, utilize social media to let everyone know where we're at.
Ms. Stowers, Mei Lee was having a 100th birthday, and as I'd promised her, I sent her a check for $100, and she sent it back to me saying because of COVID, they canceled the birthday party, so she was returning the $100 check, but I could send her $101 next year. I thought that was nice.
Nice.
Thank you.
Okay,
So we'll
that
keep on
concludes
going.
my comments on the meeting location. Any more questions?
Mr. Amron, did you have a question?
I just want to thank you, Executive Director. I know it was a lot of hard work. This 450 N Street's been going through its trials and tribulations these past couple of years, so I think it's exciting, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. And just along with Senator Gaines was saying, staying on that Capitol corridor, we've had this convenient location to bring senators and state assembly members and constitutional officers. They were able to take a walk to the 450 N Street to come meet with us and talk about the work they're doing. And I think it can continue at the Mei Lee office complex. And it'll be nice to be the inaugural tenants there to serve as a host in that capacity as well. So looking forward to it. And thank you again for your whole team's hard work on this.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I had a question about the California Tax Policy Oversight Board. That's one of your items.
I'm getting ready to go there.
We'll let her present on it first,
Oh,
and then
okay,
we'll
thank you.
get there.
Okay. Okay. All righty, great. Okay, so my next item I would like to talk about is the status of several bills that the board took a position on. The first bill I would like to discuss is Senate Bill 1436, introduced by Senator Ben Allen, on the creation of the California Tax Policy Oversight Board. This bill proposed establishing the California Tax Oversight Board, consisting of the Controller, the Director of Finance, the Chairperson of the State Board of Equalization, the Treasurer, and the Secretary of Government Operation Agency. The purpose was to work collaboratively to promote clarity and communication and consider recommendations regarding input brought by the tax agencies, taxpayers, or other state or local entities. This bill would require the Policy Oversight Board to provide transparent, open, and accessible forums, meeting at least 2 times each year, and will require the Policy Oversight Board to report on findings after each hearing, together with recommendations to all participants, tax agencies, and the governor. The bill would also require the board to issue an annual report to the governor, the legislative analyst's office, and to the legislator. The board voted to support this legislation, and a position letter was submitted on your behalf. Unfortunately, this bill was held on the Senate Appropriation Committee suspense file on May 16, 2024. Any questions on the Tax Policy Oversight Board?
So what is the
Mr.
status
Schaefer?
of it now?
It did not make it out of committee. It
Thank
was
you.
held in suspense.
Okay, Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, thank you for that report. I just wanted to officially go on, appreciate and recognize Senator Ben Allen for his work on, you mentioned SB 1436. Although it's been held, I think, I learned a lot from this and want to thank my colleagues also for your support on this, because at the two hearings, especially the second hearing we went to, I was surprised, and it was kind of welcoming to hear from some of the legislators who thought that we didn't have enough teeth in it. Here we were worried about putting too much out there. There seems to be a different appetite among the legislators, so I'm hoping next year, as we move into the next season, we take that into consideration as we move forward. And I think what hurt us this one is obviously the budget. Right now, anything that has any kind of a cost, even though I believe this was minimal, it's not going anywhere these days because, the deficit is so big right now for the state. But I also wanted to recognize and praise our chair, Lieber, on AB 2238, the low bill, because, are you going to get into it? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll wait.
It's coming.
Because you mentioned it earlier, and I didn't know if you were done with it. No, I'll wait, I'll hold off.
Yeah, I just took a break because, just because.
It's coming.
And going back to the senator, I just give my senator a shout out. They just had a new baby. They just had a baby girl last week. So, because he wanted to come by and thank us as well, but he's on paternity leave.
That's great. And, I think the next year is going to have the advantage of being a fresh, new two-year session. And although it will be a tough budget year next year as well, there will be a little bit more capacity being at the beginning of a session. So please carry on.
Okay. The next bill, AB 2238, the Franchise Tax Board Membership Bill, introduced by Assemblymember Evan Lowe. Under this bill, existing law established in government operation agency, the Franchise Tax Board, consisting of the Controller, the Director of Finance, and the Chair of the State Board of Equalization. Existing law prescribes various powers and duties to the Franchise Tax Board, including, among other things, the administration of state personal income tax and corporate franchise tax. As amended on May 20th, 2024, this bill, beginning July 1st, 2025, will add the Lieutenant Governor and the Treasurer as members of the Franchise Tax Board. This bill would also designate the Controller to serve as the Chair of the Franchise Tax Board. On May 21st, 2024, the Chair, on behalf of the board, submitted a letter to Assemblymember Lowe stating that the BoE is neutral and no longer opposes AB 2238 as amended, and extended the board's appreciation for the author's willingness to collaborate with the BoE to address the board's concerns in previous versions of this bill. This bill passed out of Assembly 50-11 and ordered to the Senate floor May 22nd, 2024. I do have one more bill. Okay. The final bill is AB 2353, pertaining to property tax payments and the welfare exemption, introduced by Assemblymember Chris Ward. This bill proposes to allow affordable housing developers to withhold property tax otherwise due to county tax collector once a welfare exemption application has been submitted to the qualified property tax has been submitted. The board voted to support this legislation, and the chair submitted a position letter on the board's behalf. This bill also passed out of the Assembly 72-0 and ordered to the Senate floor on May 22nd, 2022. That concludes the bills that I will be covering today. Chief of Legislation and Research, Mr. Ted Angelo, will be presenting on other bills of interest later on today. Any questions on the last two bills?
Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, I'll save my comments on the ward bill because I understand Mr. Angelo's probably going to bring it up again in his presentation, unless I'm mistaken here.
You can do it now, and Mr. Angelo can come help me out.
Okay. Well, while he's coming up, let me start by just recognizing and praising our chair also for the letter that was sent on AB 2238, because I know there was a lot of confusion at the beginning, because at the hearing I went to, it was pretty clear to me from the leadership and the members that they were in agreement to work with the chair. But then I saw what was being presented, and actually, to the credit of a couple of the members in that committee who texted me and says, I'm looking at this bill and they haven't amended it. It shows CDTFA on it. Should I be supporting it? I said, no, this thing needs to be amended. So luckily it was tabled. And then I guess they took into consideration letter that, and the discussion the chair had with the committee. And it was refreshing to hear that they moved forward and they removed CDTFA, because there seemed to be a consensus that it should be an elected person on that board. And they decided on lieutenant governor, which I think is a good choice. And let's see where it goes from here. So just want kudos to our chair and also to staff here. The other issue I was going to bring up and you touched on was the ward bill. And since you're sitting up here, Mr. Angelo, I was wondering, this is the one that deals with whether a property is under Chapter 8 and Chapter 7. Am I correct, or is that a different one?
That's a different one.
All right, then I'll wait.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I jumped ahead then. You will be discussing that one later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, talk to you later. Okay,
Sorry to call you up. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
let's see now. We talked about the
comment?
bills.
Oh, I think you had another question.
Yes.
Yeah,
Excuse me, Vice Chair.
Yeah, because we're not hearing any more on 2353 at this point. Is that right?
I can talk some more if you like.
No.
No.
You don't have to. I'm just asking the question. But I did want to, I also want to thank Senator Ben Allen for his efforts, because I think that's good government. And so I think we all agree. And I think there's an opportunity there. So I'm hopeful that it'll come up in the next session and we'll be able to get that figured out. And then wanted to thank our Chair Lieber very much, and Member Vasquez for your efforts on 2238, because that was very challenging, and through your efforts you were able to develop a solution that took care of the issue, the whole challenge. So just want to thank you for those efforts and the success in getting it moved out of the legislature. So thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to also acknowledge Mr. Lowe for being so willing to work with us. We had him cornered at every public event that he went to and in the building as well. And then the chair of Assembly Rev and Tax, Assemblywoman Jackie Irwin, I think was very helpful. And very helpful in recognizing the unique and essential role that the BoE plays. And so it was very good to see that upon arriving at that committee, immediately the notion of taking the BoE off of the Franchise Tax Board in terms of, which would have meant removing elected representation and removing representation with direct accountability for taxation, did not move forward as a part of that bill. So I think that was tremendous progress there. So, Mr. Amron?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just also want to thank all the colleagues here for banding together on AB 2238. The controller, as chair of the Franchise Tax Board, she thought it was very, very important to keep the Board of Equalization on. She fought tooth and nail In regards to this, she said it was a hard stop to not have the Board of Equalization on. And now as the legislation is going through the process, I think it's quite powerful to have 4 constitutional officers on the franchise tax board. It's the second largest tax department in the country behind the federal IRS. Collects over $150 billion in tax, personal income tax. It runs like a well-oiled machine. So as the bill goes through its process and hopefully is signed by the governor, I think the controller is excited to welcome the 2 new members on to the franchise tax board, to have the Department of Finance, to have the Board of Equalization where it belongs, and continue to serve the taxpayers of California in the highest regards. So really, really looking forward to it. And I just want to also thank Assemblymember Lowe and Treasurer Ma too for working with us throughout this process. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Schaefer?
I had one question on this. It's one thing having 4 constitutional officers on the franchise tax board. Do we know that they would be attending personally or via a deputy? The deputies do a wonderful job, but if you're going to have some members personally and some appearing by deputy, that's a little bit awkward. I would like to see that we are able to get all of our constitutional members to go to that meeting, either virtually or in person.
Well, I can't speak to that. I just know what all the amendments adding those 2 on, that there will be on that board. Whether or not they will have the ability to have a designee, I do not know that. But they meet 4 times a year here in Sacramento, and I'm pretty sure that those 2 new members will be looking forward to attending in person themselves.
Sure, well, that's good, thank you.
Okay. Other, yes, Vice Chair.
Just a closing remark, because I'm sorry I didn't recognize Controller Cohen in her efforts really across the board in terms of support of the Board of Equalization, and it's very much appreciated. And so I didn't want to move on to the next subject without mentioning that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about the budget.
Okay.
And
Just a little interjection here. I know that we need to take a 10-minute break. And did you want to hold on the budget until we take that break, especially for our captioning crew and others? So if it's okay, we'll go ahead and take the 10-minute break now at 11:20 and come back at 11:30.
sounds good.
Thank you.
executive director's report, and I think she was just about to go into the budget.
Thank you, Chair Lieber. Yes, Yvette Stowers. I was going to talk about the budget. The governors may revise. I asked Ms. Minotti to join me on this part of my presentation. If that's okay.
Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. The governor released his May budget for 2024-25 fiscal year on May 10th. The May revision addresses anticipated shortfalls in both 2024-25 and 2025-26. According to the governor's revised projections, the anticipated budget shortfall for 2024-25 is $27.6 billion, which a slightly higher shortfall of $28.4 billion for 2025-2026. The May revisions include significant spending cuts to government operations, reductions to programs, and pause for new investments. Despite these necessary cuts, reductions, and pauses, the May revisions maintains current service levels for key healthcare, social services, and other critical programs. To address the projected budget shortfall and multi-year operating deficits, the governor proposes one-time and ongoing general fund solutions to achieve a balanced budget in 2024-25 and 2025-2026, and significantly reduces the projected operation deficits over multi-year forecasts. AB 106 adopted the governor's budget proposals to reduce department budgets in 2024 by $1.5 billion. The May revised proposed making the reductions permanent. The Department of Finance will work with the agencies and departments in the fall on the appropriate budget reductions starting in 2024-25, and will eliminate approximately 10,000 positions starting in 25-26 and ongoing. Additionally, reduction to state operation of about 7.95% will begin in 2025 to nearly all departments and budget. At this time, it is unclear exactly what impact will have on the BoE. However, we will continue to monitor, work with the Department of Finance, and keep you updated. Ms. Bonatti, would you like to say anything on the budget?
Yes, I was going to talk about it during my other, but here we go. Lisa Renati, Chief Deputy Director. We're currently engaged in proactive efforts to ensure that we wrap up our year-end budget tasks, and this includes making sure that we account for all of our expense item purchases, give the invoices, give all of any type of receipts that we have, so that can be accounted for. And really, one of the biggest tasks right now is making sure that one of our largest expenses are accounted for, and those are our expense claims. We have our auditors who travel throughout the state and to perform their work, and we need to make sure we get all those receipts in on time and processed. So we're really pushing to get those in so that we can be vital in safeguarding our funding for our agency. When they look at our past years, expenditure reports, and if they have to make a cut, they will make cuts based on the numbers that are in those reports. And those reports are only as good as those receipts that we have accounted for. So we're really making sure that we have all of our expenses accounted for.
And that includes board members' offices as well. We send you guys a monthly appropriation report, and we always tell you, this, if we don't have the expenses in there, like your travel, it's not accurate. And although your travel, your flight, your hotel, your car is generally state paid, we still need to have those invoices in so that we can have accurate accounting.
Okay, questions, Mr. Emron?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank the Executive Director leadership here, Ms. Renati and Ms. Stowers as well. And I know we're in the time, it's a little bit of belt tightening, right? And I think the Board of Equalization has always been an exemplary agency when it comes to being as efficient as possible. And then also on the other end, the core duties of this Board of Equalization, I think it's so important now. Stepping up, we're one of the big three in terms of property tax revenue. And as long as we're doing our job, I think we're going to see this deficit through. to brighter days. But for now, just really, really buckling up and being the most lean, efficient Board of Equalization we can be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Vasquez?
Just a quick comment and question. You mentioned, Mr. Nye, I think you were talking about just positions, making sure that we have everything committed and we don't lose it. And I know when I had a vacancy on the legal side, it took like 2 years to fill these things because we don't have an HR department internally. Is there something we could do on that? Because I'd hate to see any of the offices being penalized because of a vacancy, but not so much because they're not working to try to fill it, but the process that it just takes so long. Because it's out of your control in many cases. You're at the mercy of this, I guess I want to say an exterior department's approval to move it.
No, no.
You wanna say?
Go ahead.
Am I correct or am I?
I'd like to answer it if I can.
Yes,
Take
please, go
on
right ahead.
my boss taking over for her. But our HR, we have in the last 7 years of our agency, we did build up a support services unit. And our
Okay.
support services unit does have, on top of all the other things they do, they have a dedicated person for HR. We have a dedicated person for budgets and contracts and for facilities. So our HR person is really the liaison with our service provider. At the same time, in the past, where we had delays in our processing of our HR was because we didn't have our delegation back. The State Personnel Board had removed our delegation at the same time as the restructuring. So we have our delegation back. And so now that we have our delegation back and we have our support services teams, we can get people hired fairly quickly. It's all, where the time takes is the time for the hiring manager to score the applications, the hiring manager to set up the interviews and make the selection. Once we get the selection made, it goes back into, back to the department, our service provider, and then the approvals happen fairly quickly. They have to go through and do checks and balances, make sure we're following all rules, but we're not finding that many delays any longer.
Oh, I appreciate to hear that because I know it was a problem. I guess I'm going back 3-4 years here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would just comment that I appreciate all the budget information that we're getting. As grim of reading as it is, I think that it's just a situation for us to navigate and to be very, very sensitive to where the legislature and the governor are. And you know that I think it's about 2/3 of the state assembly are brand new members, and so have not gone through the real crucible of a very ugly budget situation before. And as Mr. Emron mentioned, asserting our role as an agency that brings in revenue for pre-K through 16+ education and local government and really vital services, I think is important. So we'll continue to watch that process as it unfolds in the legislature.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, our role is very important. I want to comment, if I may.
Please.
Of course, the state has a budget deficit, and thanks to Chair Lieber, we were concerned about how is that going to affect local government. So I actually sent a letter as the executive director to all the board of supervisors, acknowledging an important role that property tax is and encouraging them to fully fund the county assessors. Mm-hmm. The county assessors were very pleased with the letter, and so were some board of supervisors. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback, a lot of thank yous.
Good.
And then some assignments.
Good.
Okay, that's all I have on the budget. I have one more item to report on,
Please,
if I may.
please.
Okay, members of you may recall back in March, I committed to providing the board with a formal written assessment of the agency and that will outline the many achievements realized from our rebuilding and revitalizing efforts. I just want to provide you with an update that this report is still being prepared, and thanks to your leadership, the agency is rebuilt and revitalized, And yes, we are going to have some hard times coming up, but I think we're in a good position to weather the storm. But with respect to the report, I expect to have that report as promised the third quarter of this year. And with that report, hopefully that report would help you guys in setting your goals, your strategic goals for 24-26. That concludes my items for item 7. Any
Thank you.
questions?
Any further comments, Mr. Emron?
Thank you for that, Ms. Stowers. I had one question about some of the events coming up. I know we talked about August, the CAA's meeting in Palisades, correct? Do you have a specific date?
I do not have the specific date for the conference. I will say this, for our side, I'll find out for you first of all.
Please.
But for our side, we're limiting our conference participation to key staff.
Understood.
Yeah, so it'll be some property tax staff for that one. And they had another conference, and they actually had it virtual, so I participated virtually, and so did Mr. Young. So we're just trying to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars.
I appreciate that, and
Yeah.
I know summer's kicking off too, so
Yeah.
there's going to be a plethora of events and engagements that either yourself or us as the Board of Equalization members can also be involved in, whether it be in Sacramento or their respective districts too. So
Yeah.
just keep us
Yeah.
abreast, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Once I get that date, I will send it to you.
Thank you. Mr. Young is suggesting the date might be,
August 5th through the 8th.
okay,
Thanks for the
thank you.
quick
August,
response.
5th through 8th is the assessors,
Northern California Assessors Association Conference.
Northern California Assessors.
NCAA.
Apologies to Southern California. Very much appreciate that, and more information will be forthcoming. And we have item 8, which is the extension of time to complete the local assessment role. Ms. Dowers.
Thank you. Members, Revenue and Taxation Code 616 require county assessors to annually complete their local assessment role by July 1st. Section 155 provides that the board executive director may extend by 30 days the deadline for any official act by the assessor. In the case of public calamity, the deadline may be extended for 40 days. Section 155 also requires the executive director to inform the board of any such extensions. Okay. Members, I would like to inform you that Los Angeles County, Mariposa County, and Plumas County assessors have requested and have been granted an extension of 30 days for completing their 2024 local assessment role. That concludes my report.
Thank you so much. And members, this is for information only. And so we appreciate that. And there's nothing as good as a grace period. So if you're good there, we'll go on and bring Ms. Renati back up for the operational priorities report.
Good morning, Chair Lieber and honorable members. I am Lisa Renati, Chief Deputy Director. Today, I will provide a brief report on some of the operational priorities of the agency. A cornerstone of the agency's 5-year strategic plan is to enhance our workforce capacity. And to accomplish that goal, we use effective and efficient recruitments. We provide mentoring and development of our staff and our managers, and we also perform knowledge transfer activities. Since our previous meeting, we have successfully filled 8 vacant positions, including 4 promotions, 2 employees who returned to BoE, and 2 brand-new employees. Our vacancy rate remains steady at 11%, and we have the remaining vacancies, 65% of those are inactive recruitment, so we hope to fill those soon. We continue to make meaningful progress in revitalizing our workforce and ensuring we have the future property tax leaders that we'll need to succeed. Earlier today, or just a moments ago, we talked about the budget. As mentioned, we're currently engaged in those year-end tasks, trying to get those done to safeguard our budget that's vital to our operating and making sure we can sustain all of our operations. That goes hand in hand. You know, our budget, 85% of our budget is for personnel. So when doing the recruitment activities also affects our budget. So making sure that we have that funding available for those positions. And then when it comes to our expenses, making sure that we account for all of those. This concludes my report. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Renati? Mr. Vasquez?
Just a quick one. Am I correct to understand that, I guess of the 7 to 8 key positions you mentioned, where you were used to backfill positions were open because of promotions, I guess that just took place. Are we going to be able to fill those before? I'm looking at this June 30th deadline. Is that going to hurt us?
Yeah, we're hoping to. So the minute we have someone, we know a position is vacant, we turn around and try to fill it. Right now, we have, when you do fill a position, you have to post it on Cal Careers accounts for at least 2 weeks. So that's a 2-week period, so we get that done. Typically, if a position's been recruited, it doesn't get swept, but these are dire times. We don't know what's going to happen. So we're trying as soon as we can to post and fill as many of our positions, so we have those key positions that we need. So yes, we're trying.
So that could be subject to, they could be I guess they're at risk at some point, possibly.
I've seen it in the past where someone's offered a job, and the day they were supposed to start, we had to pull it. So hopefully we're not in those times, and that's why we try to keep such a low vacancy rate, so that we're not affected as much as we could be.
And on those salary savings, we're not, do we have salary savings in those
Well,
positions?
salary savings are vacant positions, so
Right.
those are salary savings. And so we obviously we have some vacancies, so we have
Right.
some salary savings now. I don't think we're going to get all of our vacancies swept, but
okay.
I'm putting that out as my intention to the universe. Hopefully, they'll all stay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Mr. Gaines?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the report and our vacancy rate. Did you already mention it? I apologize.
It's remained
but-
steady at 11% because we
Yeah.
have had promotions, which doesn't clear a vacancy.
Yeah, which is excellent.
Yeah.
That's lower than the state average, I believe.
I haven't checked recently, but it's lower than the average that LAO reports.
Yes, okay. Yeah, that's great. And then can you speak a little bit about, we had 2 employees that came back to the BoE.
We did, yes. We had one person who retired, who you may have given a certificate to and taken pictures with, and he retired and realized that he missed working, and so he came back.
Awesome.
So he unretired. So it's not a retired annuitant. This is a full-fledged employee, unretired. The other person was on a limited term assignment, which is very typical to take a limited term assignment to get experience, maybe take on a new challenge, and when that position ends, which in these budget times is very typical, they come back to the agency, bringing that newfound knowledge and experience and
Wonderful.
helping us do better.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's good news on both fronts, but to have someone retire and then actually come back full-time again speaks well of him and I think the agency.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we can't count on that happening a lot.
Okay, right.
Okay, Mr. Emron?
Thank you, Ms. Renati. I just really, really appreciate this report out. You know, the summer's kicking off now, and is there any like work or looking into interns, bringing in some interns into the agency? It's something that we've been looking into in our office too, just maybe even in a volunteer position, but I think it's just great exposure for young people to be able to see the inner workings of an agency, and especially the constitutional office, and being able to take that, run with it, put it on their resume, and then go off to do further things, but always bring that back, that experience back. And I say this too because I'm a homegrown intern, now deputy controller, so. And I thought it was an incredible experience for me when I started 10 years ago as an intern at City Hall, and it was such an invaluable experience, and I loved it so much. I've stuck with Controller Cohen through the ranks, so even if you don't have that opportunity now this summer, it's just something that I encourage looking into. I know we have the budget, but even a volunteer or a stipend is a great way to attract some talent, and also going back to either Sacramento State, UC Davis, or wherever university or college they come to, even high school, and just spreading that word too. Thank you.
So thank you for the question. We have BoE 1.0 and used student assistance in a lot of the programs. It was very popular in my previous position. One of the interns even is right now in a leadership position, so it really is a great program. And we were talking about it recently with our service provider. The issue it's not an issue, but one thing at BoE, we don't have true entry-level positions. So to bring in an intern, get them excited, we can't hire them at the end, once they graduate from college. They have to go out and get experience and come back. So right now, we're trying not to be greedy with those employees and letting the agencies that can hire them right out of college pick those people up. It's something for us to look into the future. For member offices, we don't have volunteers at the state. We only have paid student assistants. But one of those paid student assistants would have to take one of your vacant positions. So you couldn't fill a vacancy, and I know member offices don't have a lot of staff. So to take one of those positions for student assistants, definitely something you can do, and something that can be valuable. But we pay our student assistants.
Understood.
So-
Thank you so much.
Great. Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your report. Thank you.
Thank
And we'll go on now to item 10, which is the Taxpayers' Rights Advocates Office's report. Ms. Thompson.
Good afternoon, Chair Lieber and honorable board members. For the record, I'm Lisa Thompson, the Chief of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office, and I am here to provide you with an update on the activities of the TRA office. I'm pleased to provide you with some statistics on the number of completed cases in April by our office. We completed 23. 7 were in Vice Chair Gaines's district, District 1. 6 were in Chair Lieber's district, District 2. 5 were in Member Vasquez's district, District 3. And 5 were in Board Member Schaefer's district, District 4. 3 were from the administrative category and 20 from the evaluation category. The memo that is attached to the public agenda notice provides additional detail on the topics within each of those categories. However, the largest topic was the evaluation category, was exclusions from reassessment with 8 completed cases. Of the 8 cases, 5 were transfers between parents and children, and 2 were base year value transfers, 1 for seniors and 1 for disaster, with the remaining 1 involving the co-tenancy exclusion. With the exception of 1, all of the base year value transfer and parent-child transfer exclusions were within the time of current law of Proposition 19. However, one of the base year value transfer cases where the taxpayer's home had been destroyed by a disaster, he had applied for Proposition 19 disaster, didn't qualify. However, we provided information on another provision that he could qualify for. I'd also like to inform the board members that our office has started preparations for the upcoming August Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing. We worked with our service provider to create the posters and flyers, and they have been printed, and I have left copies for each of you. I'll provide further updates at future board meetings. However, in June, we will be sending those posters and flyers to county agencies involved in property taxes for distribution and display into public areas for taxpayers to see. Also pleased to announce the publication of a new information sheet. It was posted to the website yesterday and is available under the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Education area. The information sheet is on the co-tenancy exclusion, and that information sheet will help taxpayers who own property get together but are unmarried know about the availability of the co-tenancy exclusion should one of them pass away and the other inherit that property. They can apply for that exclusion with the assessor's office and avoid the 50% reappraisal. So that concludes my update, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Ms. Thompson? Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for your report, Ms. Thompson. And regarding the Prop 19 parent-child and grandchild exclusions, when you have been contacted by property taxpayers regarding these exclusions in recent months, do we find that they've been generally aware about Prop 19 and its changes in these exclusions, or is it something else that they're calling about at this point?
Well, our office helps them with some problems that they may have, but many of the problems with the parent-child transfer has been the fact that they weren't able to file the homeowner's exemption within the 1 year required
year.
to receive the exclusion from the date of change in ownership. Fortunately, in some cases, if they still own the property, they are still able to get the exclusion on a prospective basis based on our rule that we have to clarify that. So that's the majority of those cases. Some of the issues with the base value transfers are with not being able to complete construction on a replacement property within 2 years.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Mr. Emron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to thank you, Ms. Thompson, for your report. I was very delighted to walk in to my dice seat this morning and see this beautiful poster here. The 2024 Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, August 27th. And I think it's also important. I think it's one of the premier things that we do at the Board of Equalization. Is going to be in our new auditorium as well. But to have that public discourse and to have people come into the auditorium or online to speak about concerns in the property tax and alcoholic beverage world. So really, really appreciate it. And I also want to shout out Peter Kim for this graphic too. It's very, very, very beautiful. I'm looking forward to passing it out throughout the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's a great thing to make taxpayers and constituents aware of, is their ability to participate in that process. And also just to get service around the year from Taxpayer Right Advocate's Office. So we very much appreciate your work. And I'm going to try my darndest to get District 2 into the top position for next month. I don't know how we lost that to the vice chair's district this month, but last month was a great and glorious month for D2 participation.
Yeah, we do. We compete. District 1 and 2 seem to compete for the most cases each month. So
I think we're always in the lead, and we do have a very unquiet constituency, and so maybe that's a part of it. But very much appreciate your report and the graphics, which we'll take with us to get out in the community. Thank you.
thank you.
We'll go on to item 11, the Property Tax Deputy Director's Report, led by Mr. Young.
Good afternoon, Chair Lieber, honorable members of the board. Once again, for the record, my name is David Young, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. So for you today, I have our three usual reports. They are letters to assessors and a report on the assessment training and certification that will be given by Ms. Lauren Keach. And then Mr. McCool will provide you an update as to what's going on with the state assessed properties division. But before I turn it over to them, first of all, I want to recognize all the hard work that both units, both divisions have been doing in the last month. And a special shout out to Mr. McCool and his crew. He was able to finish up the values, which you will be looking at later on this afternoon. So, and that was a major undertaking. They were a little bit undergunned this year, but his crew pulled together and did an excellent job. So with that, if you're ready, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Keach for our first report on letters to assessors.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Lieber and honorable board members. I'm Lauren Keach, Chief of the County Assessed Properties Division. Today, I'll provide you with a brief report on letters to assessors. Attached to this month's agenda is a memo on letters to assessors, which provides a list of LTAs that have been issued since our last board meeting. In addition, the memo provides a link to the BoE's website where all the LTAs can be found that have been issued to date. As of the date of the attached memo, BoE staff has issued a total of 15 LTAs for calendar year 2024. Since our last board meeting, 3 of those LTAs had been issued, and those 3 LTAs are summarized as follows. An LTA to issue the Community Land Trust housing data for the 2023 lien date, an LTA on accessory dwelling units, which explains the new statutory location of the definitions of accessory dwelling unit and junior accessory dwelling unit, an annual LTA to announce the increases in the disabled veterans exemption for the 2025 lien date. And that concludes my report on letters to assessors. I'm available to answer any questions.
Yeah. Any questions on the LTAs? Okay, seeing none.
Okay,
Let's
thank you.
proceed.
I will now provide a brief report on BOE's appraisal training and certification program. For the 2023-24 fiscal year, we've scheduled 33 classes and 3 workshops. Since the last board meeting, 2 classes and 1 workshop have been taught, and to date, all classes and workshops have been completed. We had 773 students complete the classes, and 318 persons attended the 3 workshops. In addition, BOE staff sent out the annual training needs questionnaire to all 58 county assessors training coordinators in order to provide the BOE with their training needs for the upcoming 2024-25 fiscal year. The questionnaires were returned last month, and BOE staff has reviewed them and is in the process of determining the training schedule and locations for the upcoming fiscal year. We also continue to offer our existing online basic training courses available through American River College and California State University, Sacramento, as well as our online courses and self-study training sessions that are available on the BOE's website. This concludes my report on the certification and training program. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? Vice Chair and then Mr. Vasquez.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Keach. In reference to the questionnaires, does that also offer suggestions? Does the questionnaire include an opportunity for people to give input?
Yes, we would allow them to put input. It's particularly to request the quantity of students for the classes that they would need, so we can make sure we schedule enough of the particular courses to meet that demand. But we have regular communication with the training coordinators. We have 2 meetings with them a year, so we definitely allow opportunity for feedback and suggestions.
Yeah, all right, good. You feel like you're getting a good amount of feedback, the right amount of feedback in order to customize classes for the needs and the demand?
Yes, I believe so. We did just have our 2nd annual training meeting with the coordinators, so we provided them with important updates, and then we had a question and answer session at the end. So there was a lot of communication there, and we're taking all their suggestions and feedback into consideration.
Well, that's great. Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I goofed. I do have a question on the LTAs, if I can go back to them real quickly. Bless you. Regarding LTAs, specifically the 2024/13, it appears that Los Angeles County reported the highest amount of property owned by CLTs that qualified for the low-income housing exemption, about 3.8 million in value. Do you know the number of parcels that represents, by any chance?
I would have to look at that report and get back to you. I don't know it off top hand. I do know that this is data that we provide back based on legislation that LAO has required. So that's the point of the survey that we issue in the LTAs. But as in regards to the parcels, if that's not collected in the questionnaire, I would have to go back and see if we can obtain that information.
Appreciate it. And then in regards to the LTA, I guess it's 2024/017. It appears that this provision has a sunset date of 2027-2028. And 2, it appears that this also follows federal law where an owner or renter of property receiving a federal low-income housing tax credit is required to be treated as lower income. Can you confirm or explain these 2 things for me, please?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the beginning of your question? Which?
In regards to, it appears, I guess, in that provision under that LTA 2024-017, that there's a provision that it's there's a sunset date of 2027-2028. And it appears that this also follows a federal law where an owner or renter of a property receiving a federal low-income housing tax credit is required to be treated as lower income?
So the LTAs I'm presenting today are on 13, 14, and 15, so that may be one that I'll be presenting on next month that we've issued, so I don't have that information in front of me
Okay.
for 17.
So what about going back to, oh, okay, we'll just hold off. Now, did you mention, is also 2024-18 going to be next month as well?
That would be next month as well.
Okay.
This month includes 13, 14, and 15, but,
Only, all right, I'll hold off.
okay, and I'll have your questions for next month.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And then, did you have another question on training?
On the training, no, I'm fine,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thank you for your
Appreciate
question.
the update though on that.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Not? Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait,
Yeah.
Mr. McCool, I believe you're next.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Lieber and honorable members of the board. My name is Jack McCool. I'm the Chief of the State Assessed Properties Division. Today, I'll provide information on the status of ongoing work in our division. Later today, the board is scheduled to set the unitary values for 321 state-assessed companies. After adoption of the values, SAPD will mail the annual notices of unitary value to each state assessee. Each notice will provide the assessees with their board-adopted unitary value for 2024 and will also provide information on filing an appeal should they choose to do so. The notices provide the deadline date to file an appeal, as well as information on what should be included in an appeal submission. The notices also include contact information for the Board Proceedings Division, Appeals Case Management Group, who can assist with any questions related to filing an appeal. Additionally, SAPD will now turn our attention to allocating this year's unitary values to the 58 counties in preparation for the State Assessed Board roll that will come before the board in July. The objective of our allocation of unitary values is to assign the correct amount of each company's property to the counties in which their property is located. All of our state assessees will receive a report detailing how their unitary values are allocated to each county in mid-June. The other area of focus for our division is the private railroad car appraisals. The PRC property statements are due annually on April 30th, and staff are now busy diligently working to complete these appraisals timely. Similar to our state assessed appraisals, the PRC appraisals will go through a series of reviews prior to coming before the board in July for adoption of the private railroad car roll. Thank you, members. That concludes my report for this month, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. McCool? Sure that we'll have more this afternoon. Mr. Vasquez.
Just a quick, I think you might have answered in your presentation, but am I correct? I think you said, I was going to ask, when can they expect or receive notice of valuation? And I think you said it was going to be in July?
They will receive notice of their unitary values. Those will go in the mail tomorrow, those notices. In mid-June, they will receive a report detailing how their total unitary values are allocated amongst the counties.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Of course.
Mr. Emron.
Just to follow up, in that scenario, after July, how long do they have to respond if it's a protest?
So their unitary values are scheduled to be adopted today. They will receive we'll mail the notice tomorrow, so they should receive their notice of unitary values shortly. And they'll have until July 20th, actually this year, July 20th is a Saturday. So they'll have until Monday, July 22nd to file an appeal of their unitary value. They will also have until July 20th to file an appeal for if they dispute how their values are allocated to the counties. Our final board roll is scheduled to come before the board in July. That's the allocated unitary values. It will include any adjustments based on board actions from the prior year, and it will also include our non-unitary values. If they wish to appeal their non-unitary value, they would have an additional time until September 20th to file an appeal for their non-unitary values.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, any other questions? If not, thank you so much. Any closing comments?
No,
Mr.
thank
Young?
you. No, that should do it. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And again, we'll look forward to hearing more from Mr. McCool and others this afternoon. And we'll go on now to item 12, our Legislative Research and Statistics Division Chief's Report from Mr. Angelo.
Okay. For the record, Ted Angelo with the BOE's Legislative Statistics and Research Division. And now I'm going to be talking about some of the legislative activity that's been going on the past couple of weeks. Last week was the deadline for bills House of Origin. I sent an update to all the members, as I do every week, regarding status of certain bills that we're tracking. Ms. Stowers spoke to some of the bills that the board has taken a position on, the board members have taken a position on. So the bills are crossing over. We had the fiscal committees meet for the suspense file, and as we know, we're in a very difficult budget year, unfortunately. So a number of bills, a slightly higher than normal ratio, were held on suspense. And some of those were summarized earlier. I'll go over these quickly, but the bills are crossing over, and they'll start to focus on the constitutional deadline for the main budget bill is the 15th of June. So we'll have the budget subcommittees, and the trailer bills will take place after that. And that's where the guts of everything starts happening in those before they start handling legislation after they come back from their summer recess. So we'll have some early policy committee hearings, depending on how much they're focusing on the budget, and we'll keep you updated on that. Our sponsored BOE proposal, SB 1527, is the Revenue Tax Committee bill from the Senate side, and this is the one that extends the low-value exemption ordinance that County Board of Supervisors have and may apply to any taxable possessory interest. So we've talked about this in the past, but the code section is due to sunset at the end of the year, and this bill extends it for another 5 years. There was a bill by Mr. Lowe that was dealing with parklets. So that's when you have a vendor on public property. It can be a sidewalk, could be a parking lot, different areas, and they want to have a business. He wanted to have an exemption from possessory interest specifically for those, but the low-value ordinance would cover those for any county that wanted to allow that, rather than just make it a statewide mandate. So he amended his bill to take that specific parklet concept and just apply it to extending the low-value ordinance like our committee bill does. So we'll see which vehicle ends up moving, but we'll be supportive of that, obviously, because we're supporting that exact provision in our own measure. And that bill is AB 3268 by Assemblymember Lowe.
Question, if I could.
Quick
Go ahead.
question from Vice Chair.
Thank you. So is it possible that that the bills could be amended into one bill?
They could, and so there's a lot of different opportunities, but because the committee bill is on the Senate side and Mr. Lowe is an Assembly member, I'm not sure. I spoke to the committee consultant about the vehicle, so they'll just keep moving, and then whichever one is going to go to the governor, that you could send them both and do chaptering out, where they could actually both be signed, and whichever one gets signed last becomes law. So there's different options that can happen where they can both move.
So you just have to coordinate.
Yes, or they consolidate.
With both bills as they're moving through, but it sounds like a nice opportunity for those parklets, right? If a county wants to opt in,
right,
they'll have the ability to do that.
Right. So. And again, and they have that authority now, and they have it extended for like fairs and expositions,
right,
and things that were already in the code, and there's a lot of detail about that, but this bill just extends that sunset date.
Yes.
And again, we're in a difficult budget year, so it's nice that those aren't getting overly scrutinized, because it's a good option for the counties that want to administer that.
Yes.
They're not forced to.
But the park and street aspect is not in the bill as it exists that we're renewing. Is that correct?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's captured under that code section. It would capture anyone that wants
okay.
to exempt
Okay,
it.
so that language has been amended to clarify that?
The possessory interest exemption that County Board of Supervisors can implement would extend to parklets and
Yes.
anything like that.
Yes. Great.
So it just doesn't specifically name them out in
Okay.
the existing code sections.
Okay. Okay, and Assemblymember Lowe wants them named out? I'm trying to get clarity here.
Yes.
Yes, okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Imran, did you have a question on that?
And feel free to
just-
interject on any of the bills that I'm talking about, because I'm just kind of free
I just
flowing.
wanted to confirm the bill number on that one, the Assembly
So
bill.
our bill is SB 1527, and
Got that.
his bill, Mr. Lowe's bill, is AB 3268.
Okay, so for folks who want to subscribe to that bill, that's always a great option.
Yes. So that bill just passed over and is in pending, Rules Committee assignment. So it would be going to Revenue Tax Committee, as long as it's not double referred. So real quickly, Ms. Stowers talked about the board-supported and opposed legislation. So AB 2238 by Mr. Lowe is the FTB bill that we discussed. And so that bill passed to the Senate before the deadline. So last Thursday, they finished up before the deadline, which was Friday, to move House of Origin bills. So that bill is, as she stated, amended to add the lieutenant governor and remove the CDTFA director, have constitutional office representation. No opposition I had seen in any of the correspondence. So I won't belabor that. AB 2353 by Mr. Ward is the welfare exemption application waiver of tax and penalties bill. That passed to the Senate and is pending assignment, and that is the board-supported measure by Mr. Ward. And we know there's still discussions with the CAA as to any concerns that they have with those, being taken into consideration. But that was the position that we had taken, and we were open to, any conversations with their concerns that they might have. SB 1436 as was held on suspense, and again, that's the Allen bill for the Tax Oversight Board that Ms. Sowers and you all discussed. That bill was held on suspense, a victim of the budgets, but we do know that we didn't do a full analysis on that bill, but we did not have significant costs as potential for that. But the analysis from the Appropriations Committee took into consideration, sometimes they do a best case, worst case scenario. And if you're putting together a board like that, sometimes they can overestimate. And they based in their analysis off of like the Little Hoover Commission's standard, and it came up with a relatively big price tag. And so I won't go into the policy and the fiscal, breadth of everything that was discussed. We just know it was held. And we know that if it is to be pursued again, as you alluded to earlier, with folks that do support the concept, it could have better opportunities in a not so horrific budget situation, and maybe with clarifying language or something like that. So I'll stop on that. AB 1868, which is the Friedman bill, affordable housing assessments. That bill, we had no position on that bill, but we had clarifying language, and that is the Habitat for Humanity bill, proposal, and it's that limits deed of trust and contractual covenants enforceable restrictions language for what the total cost could be. That bill moved with no opposition and moved, I believe, on consent.
Excuse me. That was AB 1868
Yes.
by Friedman?
Yes.
Okay. And that is the affordable housing bill related to Habitat for Humanity?
Right.
Okay,
I'm
thank you.
using Habitat for Humanity because it's the language in the bill specifically. It doesn't speak specifically for them, but it is their model. And
Okay.
it had language earlier in the policy committee that we worked out, because it was originally the amount and the down payment was their formula, and we fixed it to make sure it reflected contractual covenants, enforceable restrictions language. So we got to the root of what they were trying to do for the basis of the cost, and it's moved with no opposition since.
Okay, thank you.
So that bill will go to Senate Rev and Tax once they start taking, it hasn't been scheduled for hearing yet, but it had no opposition from my research. AB 1879, Gibson was moving on consent, and this is the electronic signature bill that I discussed a while back, and it's sponsored by the Assessors Association, and we are neutral on the bill. You haven't taken a position on it, but it's something that we support, and we've been working, from a broad standpoint, we've been updating e-signature and electronic filing, just like all the other areas of the state, whether it's 16.5 of the government code application. So what recently happened, the bill was amended on May 23rd. So the bill's intent is to further authorize electronic signatures in property tax transactions, generally speaking. So the May 23rd amendments to Rev and Tax Code 168.1 require a county assessor to accept an electronic signature from a taxpayer if the assessor authorizes the submission of a BoA form electronically. So before, both parties had to agree. Now, if they accept it electronically, they have to accept this. So there may be some concerns, and it gets into the minutia of how the transactions can be accessed and what's considered electronic. But if a county assessor authorizes the submission of a state BoE form by the use of electronic media, and a taxpayer chooses to execute that form pursuant to the bill's provisions for electronic signatures, a county assessor shall accept the electronic signature pursuant to this section. So it's a little complicated, but there could be some concerns from certain county assessors, and that's their proposal. So we're supportive of what they're trying to accomplish, but if there are concerns, it's at their level. So the electronic signature, according to the language that we were fine with earlier, would need to be authenticated in a manner that is approved by BoE. So that was in the bill before, but that's a recent amendment, and I just wanted to apprise you of all that before it gets scheduled for its second House Policy Committee.
Okay, and I have a question from the Vice Chair and Mr. Vasquez also.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. It appears that, at least to me, that this bill is a step in the right direction. And I know you're kind of walking a fine line here between some of the smaller counties, I think, or might be having some issues with this. But I was wondering, because I know I shot off a letter in support for the universal, to try to get some forms, uniformity throughout the different counties. And I'm wondering if it's appropriate for the board, I guess maybe more of a legal question. Are we able to take a position legally on this, or is it just individual members could weigh in? And I see the attorney coming up. Let's see.
Good afternoon, Member Vasquez, Madam Chair, and board members. Norman Scott, Acting Chief Counsel. If the board were to choose to take action on this, it would need to be put on a future agenda where they could vote on it. It is today only brought up for reporting purposes, so they would not be able to take action today.
Okay. So given that restriction, then it would only be, I guess I could just offer it up for members individually, I guess could, right?
Yes, individual members can certainly write letters of support.
Appreciate that clarification, because it seems to me, at least in talking to the folks, especially the ones that were really lobbying real hard on this issue to try to make some uniformity, it seems to reduce some of the compliance burdens, I guess, you're getting from some of these taxpayers. So I'd like to just encourage our members here, if they choose to take a look at it. And I think I shared the letter, but if you haven't seen it, we'll definitely get it out to all the members and they can take a look at it. Appreciate the update on that, though.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And before we go to the vice chair, I think the current status of this bill is that it's now gone over to the Senate.
Correct.
So, and it did pass out of the Assembly 72-0. So we
Right.
have, it's not an endangered species, so
No,
we have
it's
some
alive.
time. And it might be good to get kind of a unified letter so that we
That'd be
sort
great.
of have less fragmentation. And I'd like to suggest that on our next agenda that we see both AB 1868 and 1879, if we could please, because I think that it would be fruitful to have the discussion and see the current status of both of those bills, and then be able to send in a letter from the entire board at once, so we have a little more impact there.
Appreciate it.
Vice
Appreciate
Chair, and then we'll go to Mr. Emron if he has one.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I agree with your comments of the chair. So in reference to the electronic signature, I do think about the rural counties and their ability to implement such a feature, which I encourage, that's important. But I also wanted to just shine some light on funds available for county assessors to buy the technology. And I'm trying to think, it may have been Lisa Renati that shared that with me. Or was it Yvette Stowers? But somewhere in the conversation,
Ms.
in the prep.
Ms. Stowers was talking about supporting them from a budget perspective,
Yes, and
that their needs.
But I think there's isn't there a second tranche of money that, I think it was $10 million.
It's Dave.
Oh, so David, was it you? Okay, I'm all over the map here, sorry.
No. Good afternoon. Yes, that was me. The assessors got basically a $30 million grant to be paid out in 3 successive years in order to update some of their computer systems. The first focus was on implementing Prop 19 and some of their base year transfers. They wanted to work on that, and the second leg of that was to work on electronic forms. This is the second year into it, I believe. They've been funded for 2 years. It's the third year that is still hanging out.
That's questionable, so there's
Yes.
still an opportunity, though.
Yes.
I mean, in the event that the law passes, there would still be time for them to request dollars for updating technology?
Well, the $30 million is already, it's been committed and it's funded based on each year's state budget.
Yes,
So that
okay.
$30 million is a fixed amount. If they're looking for anything different, I think they
No.
may have to look for a different vehicle.
I'm
Yes.
not. I'm just
Yeah.
talking about existing funds that may be available
Right.
that could help them in the event of the passage
Yeah.
of this bill.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, good.
Good.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, and that's a really good thing to be mindful of in the current budget climate, and something, there isn't a whole lot of tread left on the budget process, but something that we could be mindful of if we do want to try to impact that, because particular for the rural counties, but also some of the larger counties that are not, don't have the technology in place.
Right.
That's a very good issue. Now, Mr. Emron had a question as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to thank you, Mr. Angelo, for your report out. We are in an election year, and I understand that there's going to be a few ballot initiatives coming up in the November ballot. And specifically, I'm looking at SCA 2 by Senator Allen, Public Housing Projects, and ACA 1, Aguilar Curry, Local Government Financing, Affordable Housing, and Public Infrastructure for voter approval. And just my request is at the next board meeting, if we can just dig a little more deeper into those. Specifically, they have to do with housing, they're going to be on the ballot, and I think when we speak to our constituents, I think they're going to want to know from elected representatives who and what's going on, specifically things that almost, I think 25 million Californians can vote on too. So really appreciate you. No report out now, but in the future. I'm not sure,
Pardon
Ms.
me,
Stowers, if
please.
we have to do a motion or not, but
No,
I'd
no
appreciate
motion
it.
is not needed, but I just want to re-clarify your request for you. You're asking the executive director to look into those two provisions and see about having it on our next agenda, legislative agenda, and the research would be, looking for the right word, it's not taking a position, it's just to provide the facts.
Correct, a deeper dive into, just to clarify, can we do a deeper dive into the November 5th, 2024 statewide ballot measures that affect property taxes and housing?
We can do, we can see what we can do, because it's probably, I don't know how many there are. So we would, for the ones that you just said, we would look into those. But I'm not going to say that we're going to look at everything and just those two.
I understand, there's one that Assemblymember Lowe's putting up, the Marriage Equality Act. I understand that's not in our purview, but the ones that directly have to do with housing and property taxes, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Emmer, could you clarify just the numbers again? ACA 1, I believe, was one of them.
It's SCA 2 by Senator Allen, Public Housing Projects, and ACA 1, Local Government Financing, Affordable Housing and Public Infrastructure for Voter Approval.
Thank you.
There's actually one more too. It's ACA 13 by Assemblymember Ward as well.
Legal?
Okay, and I see Mr. Norm Scott approaching. Let us have it.
No, there's nothing to have. I just wanted a point of clarification. Norman Scott, Acting Chief Counsel. For ballot measures, the board is only allowed, certainly you can explore and discuss the ballot measures and all that. The board is not entitled to take official positions or campaign for or against ballot initiatives. That's reserved to the electorate. So that's within the framework that the reports will come back to you.
I appreciate it. That's entirely fine. Thank you.
And if we might be apprised, I think we could also have our staffs dig out this information too, is when will the legislative hearings on the constitutional amendments be held as well? Because I would love to forward that information to my constituents, and I expect everyone else here would too. And that's a good resource for people to at least have the opportunity to watch.
I agree, Chair Lieber. We're about 5-6 months away from November ballot, so I think the more information we have, the better. Thank you.
Right. Another request here emerging from the vice chair. Don't go away yet.
Okay. So just
Okay.
the comments.
I still have a couple more bills,
By
but,
Chief Legal
please,
Counsel.
and I'm almost done.
Yeah, go.
Our Chief Legal Counsel, your advice was on the board acting, right? So you weren't speaking to our ability to take up individual positions.
Yes, that's
I'm
correct.
assuming
Senator
that, yeah.
Gaines, yes.
Just wanted to make sure, though. Okay,
Right.
very good, thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Emron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a point of clarification, these are ones that have qualified for the ballot already. They will be appearing in November. And I haven't even brought up the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act, which is going through the Supreme Court hearing now. So I'm just speaking about ones that have already qualified and certified by the Secretary of State to be on the ballot in November. Not ones that are going through the process, but ones that will be appearing. Thank you.
Okay,
And the deadline is the end of the month
yes,
for qualifying for the November, just FYI.
Oh, good to
It
know.
is.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Angelo, you have 2 more bills. Let's see what we can do with those members.
Okay.
We're 5 minutes over time right now, but please.
Okay. So one of the bills is further on our agenda today. so I can limit my comments now, but Mr. Senator Sayardo's SB 964 was the Chapter 7, Chapter 8 tax defaulted property proposal that was held on suspense. So I can just limit my comments to that now, and I can answer questions now, but I will, if you have any questions on it, rather than, because I believe someone, either the senator himself or someone from his office may be participating today to explain the situation. But there were significant costs depending on what the workload, which was unknown, would be on that bill. So I just want to convey that we had worked with their office on concepts to defray and reduce those costs for a concept like this moving forward if it were to come to fruition, to do these valuations. I know I'm kind of surmising and not explaining the full bill because I don't want to take up all the time on what it does. But we reflected those, but the bill was still held on appropriations because of the budget situation we're dealing with. But those ideas could come forward in another proposal next year, and so I'll leave it at that. The accessory dwelling unit bill passed to the Assembly and is pending committee assignment. SB 1164 by Senator Newman, and that is the exclusion for assessment of ADU for new constructed. But they amended the bill in appropriations and reduced it from a 15-year exemption period to a 10-year to reduce some of the costs associated with that bill. So that was them, rather than holding on suspense, that was their motion to reduce some of the costs on that. So the ADU bill and the sunset date was brought back a little bit in that bill as well, but it's a 15-year to 10-year change. And I think we've covered the rest of them, and I've kind of gone over time, and I'm standing between everybody and lunch, so that'll end it for me, unless you have any other questions on any other bills I can answer.
Apologies, and I appreciate your being available when we have Nicholas Gauthier from Senator Sayarto's office here this afternoon.
Yes.
To talk with us. And so if there are no further questions for Mr. Angelo right now, thank you so much for that report.
Thank you.
And we are going to recess.
Before we go, please
Excuse
just
me.
take public comment on the executive director reports before we go.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I knew I was missing something. So we've had a lot under the executive director's report, and we do not have any written comments or comment cards coming from the auditorium. So let's go to the AT&T moderator. Moderator, would you please check if there is anyone hoping to make a comment on item, the various items under the executive director's reports that we've heard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, on the phones, if you'd like to make a comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time on your phone's keypad. That's 1, 0 for comments. Madam Chair, we have no callers queuing up.
Thank you so much. So all these items have been informational, so we're not taking any action on them. And it's now 12:41, so how about if we say from now till 1:45 for our lunch hour and our hall passing time? And we're going to have a lot to do this afternoon, including our annual photograph. So this will give us about 3 extra minutes to get ready for that. So thank you so much, members. So we'll go ahead and recess for 1 hour and reconvene at 1:45 p.m. Thank you.
Aye.